everyone and welcome back to Velvet Moments. Have you ever come across a post that looks completely ordinary, yet somehow feels different? A short Instagram story. No long caption. No explanation. Nothing that openly asks for attention. And yet, more often than not, this is where the smallest details begin to speak the loudest. Some time ago, Jimin shared an Instagram story that, at first glance, seemed entirely normal. No dramatic framing. No intentional message. No effort to make it stand out. Just a quiet moment, shared and passed along. But for those who are used to reading patterns, those who notice consistency rather than spectacle, something felt slightly off. Not wrong. Not strange. Just different. Camera angle. The texture of the light. The balance of color. The visual character of the image. Everything carried a familiar signature, yet one that didn't fully align with what Jimin usually shows. And from that subtle mismatch, a question naturally began to form. Who was really behind that moment? This discussion was never meant to be about a phone. Not about brands. Not about operating systems. It's about closeness, so natural it doesn't need to be announced. Jimin has always been consistent in how he presents himself publicly. Controlled. Predictable in the best sense of the word. He has long been associated with Samsung and has never appeared interested in changing that image. No statements. No explanations. Just routine. And yet, some of the photos he shared carried visual traits that many people instantly recognized. The shooting angle. The softness of the lighting. The way the camera handles color and texture. Even the image processing itself. All of it pointed toward one quiet conclusion. These photos looked like they were taken with an iPhone. That's where curiosity began to grow. Softly but persistently. Not because Jimin couldn't afford one. Money was never the issue. He could buy dozens without hesitation. What mattered was the context. These photos weren't taken in one place or at one time. Different outfits. Different moods. Different settings. This wasn't a one-day coincidence. And slowly people began connecting the dots. A theory emerged, quietly without sensationalism, that these photos may have been taken using Jungkook's phone. And this didn't come from fantasy. Jimin has always been comfortable with Android. It's part of his habit. So when a different visual fingerprint appeared repeatedly, it became significant. From there, only two possibilities existed. And interestingly, neither of them weakens the meaning. Either Jimin has complete freedom to use Jungkook's phone whenever he wants, without hesitation, without distance. Or Jungkook was physically present in those moments, close enough to be the one taking the photos himself. Whichever is true, the message remains the same. There are no boundaries between them. No awkwardness. No distance being maintained. Just ease. Just trust. And that's where many people fall silent. A phone is not a trivial object, especially for those living under constant scrutiny. It holds private routines, conversations, schedules, emotions. For public figures, it's one of the last protected spaces. Sharing that space casually reveals more than any interview ever could. To some, this detail may seem insignificant. To those who understand intimacy, it speaks volumes. When this theory first appeared, it was mocked. Dismissed as overanalysis. Labeled ridiculous. Those who insisted Jungkook rejected Jimin suddenly seemed uncomfortable with how real this closeness felt. But reality doesn't require permission to exist. Narratives built on denial slowly crack under the weight of visible consistency. Jimin and Jungkook have repeatedly shown themselves to be two people deeply comfortable with one another. Connected. Natural. What we're seeing isn't exaggerated intimacy, it's closeness that has become routine. It would be stranger if they weren't spending time together whenever possible. In Are You Sure? That pull toward each other appears again and again, not dramatically but steadily. A quiet reliance. A connection that feels human rather than performative. And once again, this was never really about a phone. It's about what the phone represents. Shared space, shared trust, shared routines. No matter how loudly some try to deny it, these small, unexpected signals continue to deliver the same message. What Jimin and Jungkook share goes far beyond what many are willing to acknowledge. And it's visible precisely because it isn't forced. If we watch Are You Sure? Calmly, what stands out isn't drama but consistency. Jungkook treats Jimin with attention that feels instinctive. He shows up. He notices. He adjusts without being asked. He doesn't just look after Jimin, he cares. Deeply. He reads Jimin's emotions, senses his comfort and responds gently. The way he touches Jimin, holding hands, brushing fingers, leaning closer, is always careful, respectful, intentional. As if he knows exactly how precious the person in front of him is. Yes, Jungkook can be awkward when it comes to expressing affection. Even Jimin has teased him about it. But there's no bitterness there, only warmth. Because beneath that awkwardness is consistency. Jungkook is always careful. Always present. He cooks for Jimin. Cleans. Feeds him. Cuts his food so he can eat comfortably. Simple actions rich with meaning. Not obligation, instinct. And all of this makes sense when we remember where Jimin comes from. His family recently received the Noble Green Family Award, an honor rooted not in fame, but in sustained kindness and genuine care for others. Values lived quietly, not announced publicly. It reminds us that Jimin's softness isn't an act. It's inherited, learned at home, built through consistency. That's why everything feels so real. Because when someone chooses to care, to share space, to remain present, even in the smallest details, that isn't coincidence. It's a choice. And Jungkook chooses Jimin. Again and again. Quietly. Without spectacle. Which brings us to the question that never seems to disappear. Why do people keep asking about Jungkook's so-called girlfriend? If someone truly believes Jikook isn't real, if every interaction is dismissed as performance, then the simplest choice would be to ignore their content entirely. No one is forcing anyone to watch. And yet they keep watching. Keep analyzing. Keep dissecting every glance, every pause, every touch. From something they claim doesn't exist. At this point, many people no longer feel the need to explain why they believe. Not because they can't, but because they don't have to. That belief never collapses. Each moment only strengthens it. What we're witnessing isn't coincidence. It's continuity. They always return to each other. Always reconnect. Always remain emotionally aligned. There's something too human here to be fabricated. After, are you sure? One truth feels even clearer. Emotionally, they have never been separate. Intimacy doesn't require confession. Harmony doesn't need explanation. And that's why every time they appear together, noise follows. But when the noise fades, what remains is always the same. Jimin and Jungkook standing side by side, choosing each other, sharing a space that clearly belongs only to them. In the end, this was never about a phone. Not Samsung. Not iPhone. Not cameras. It's about what those details represent. Trust given without hesitation, distance that no longer exists, and routines lived so naturally they cannot be staged. Jimin and Jungkook have never needed to explain what they have. Because what they show has always been consistent, quiet, and real. Thank you for watching Velvet Moments. See you in the next video.